Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with 10 short but fabulous operas for beginners. Yes, one of you suggested this just a few days ago, that I do something for beginners interested in getting into opera and pick the ones that aren't too long, which I really think is actually a very good idea, because some of the very best operas are very short, one act or a couple parts, and basically lasting around an hour or even less, maybe a few minutes more. But, these are wonderful. Some of them are quite familiar. Some of them are not so familiar. But they're all splendid pieces for beginners to sink their operatic teeth into without stressing out their attention spans, which I think is actually not at all a bad concept. I really do. So let's get to it, shall we? Here they are. Number one, Bartók's Bluebeard's Castle. Yeah, this is great. Note the title. The main character is the castle. There's only two characters. There's Bluebeard and Judith. And Bluebeard is bringing Judith to his castle as his new bride, amidst rumors that he has had many other brides who have mysteriously disappeared. Well, the castle is the orchestra, and it's the orchestra that sets the stage and provides the atmosphere and moans a couple of times. It's just fabulous. All that happens is Bluebeard and Judith argue about the keys to the fabulous doors behind which is some element of his kingdom, and behind the last door are his other wives, who are still alive but locked behind the door because they sought to learn too much about his innermost self. That's the whole story. It lasts about an hour. It's unbelievably fabulous. Yes, it's in Hungarian, and they're shrieking at each other in Hungarian for an hour, but usually you can get the text very easily. And since the story is so rudimentary, all you have to know is what's behind each door, and then listen to the orchestra. And you're in business. There's his treasury, his armory, his realms, his other wives, his all kinds of stuff. It's a lake of tears. It's fabulous stuff. So there you go. Number two, Ravel, L'Enfant et les sortilèges. Now, Ravel wrote two short operas. The first one is called L'Heure Espagnole, which is about amorous goings-on in a clock shop, which is really a lot of fun, too. But this is the one that gets all the attention. It's with a story by Colette, the famous author, and it's about a naughty child who experiences magical goings-on after said child is punished for misbehaving. All of his toys come to life, and the little animals out in the yard speak French or whatever language the child speaks. And it's just delightful, magical, absolutely magical, with wonderful little vignettes for the various characters. We have a couch that comes alive, and teacups and squirrels, and goodness gracious, it's a fairy tale. Obviously a children's fairy tale, and delightful for adults, of course, for grown-ups, needless to say. Vaughan Williams, Riders to the Sea. People don't know this one. It's a dark, tragic story. It's about the women who live in a coastal fishing village where their loved ones historically go out fishing, often during stormy weather, and never come back. So it's only about 40 minutes long. And the story is, someone goes out fishing and doesn't come back. But it's hauntingly beautiful, dark, austere, really wonderfully atmospheric compression of mood. And nobody knows this opera. Really, nobody does. It's really fantastic. I've never seen it staged. I'm sure it's done in the UK, once in a while. But it lasts exactly as long as it needs to, because it's very simple and very tragic, but lovely all the same. Give it a shot. You might be quite pleasantly surprised. And it's in English, which for those of you who care about such things is kind of helpful. Then we've got two popular favorites, which we really need to talk about. Mascagni, Cavalleria, rusticana, which is always usually paired with Pagliacci. Now, Pagliacci is the more famous of the two. It's by Leoncavallo. Pagliacci means the clown. Well, it means the clowns. It's plural. Pagliaccio is a single clown. And you know the aria, right? Ridi Pagliaccio, or however it goes, like that. It's, laugh, clown, laugh. They're all laughing at you because someone is hanging out with your wife naughtily, and it winds up with an onstage murder. It's a love triangle thing. So that's fun. And then Cavalleria rusticana. Well, that means rustic chivalry, manners in the countryside amongst the peasants. And in this particular case, well, it's another love triangle sort of thing, and someone gets killed at the end, which is what happens in Pagliacci. Both of them are exemplars of the operatic trend known as verismo, or reality, like reality TV. They were supposedly stories about truthful, well, not really truthful, it's opera, right? I mean, first of all, they're all singing at each other. And second of all, it's highly dramatic and excessive emotionalism, which is what makes them so much fun. But they are both supposedly based on the lives of real people. That's the reality, not princes and princesses and nobility or mythological characters or fairy tale beings. They're just the ordinary lives of just us guys and gals. Yeah, right. Which always usually end up in a slaying of some sort. But yeah, it's soap opera is what it is. But soap operas are all usually rich and glamorous people too. These people are not rich and glamorous. They are peasants. They are ordinary working class Joes, and their lives are absolutely horrible. And the music's glorious. So there you go. Next, Francis Poulenc, Les Mamelles de Tirésias, which, yes, indeed, means Tiresias's breasts. It's it's hard to describe what this is. Poulenc said it's an opera buffa. It's an absurdist comedy it was written after the Second World War to encourage the people of France to have more children after so many had been lost in the conflagration. It did not go over terribly well because people in France after the war were not exactly high on humor. And Tiresias is a women's lib advocate whose breasts are two balloons, and she opens up her, décolletage, and her breasts float upwards. And then one of the guys has 20,000 children, and it's all nuts. The reason I love it so much, not only is the story hysterical, the music fabulous, but it mentions Connecticut, my home state, Connecticut, as they say en français. As you promised me on Connecticut. Yes, it's very, very cute. But it's a delicious one-act frivolité. It's bubbly and enjoyable, and nowadays we can laugh. So there you go. And the opposite of laughter, Zemlinsky, a Florentine tragedy. Yes, Alexander von Zemlinsky. This is one of those fin de siècle, decadent, one-act, perverse, sexual, twisted. It's just marvelous. What happens is very simple. It's they're all love triangles, aren't they? Older guy has young nubile wife. Young nubile wife is having an affair with young hunk. The older guy, who is still in pretty good shape, kills the young hunk. And as his wife comes in and, he's ready to do her in too for the, crime of adultery. She looks at him and says, "I didn't know you were so strong," being erotically turned on while the corpse is lying there. And he steps over the corpse and grabs her and says, "And I didn't know you were so beautiful." End of story. And then they do it, presumably over the dead body. Anyway, it's a fantastically short and wonderfully steamy and psychotic little drama that you can sink your teeth into. I like these short ones, really, because they get right to the point. You know, there's like no room for extra characters and silliness and all the sort of foolishness that happens like that. Then we've got Hermano Wolf-Ferrari. Not only does he have one of the best last names in all of music, Wolf-Ferrari, but he wrote lots and lots of operas, only one of which became famous, which is Susanna's Secret, Il segreto di Susanna. The secret is that she smokes. Now, that was a big deal back then when women were not supposed to do that, back at the turn of the century, the 20th century. I mean, she was hiding it from her husband, who thinks as a result of her duplicitous behavior that she's having an affair. And so he's going crazy trying to figure out who she's fooling around with when she's really only fooling around with her pack of Marlboros. And it has a wonderful overture that gets played periodically. It's another light, frothy comedy that's over in much less than an hour, and it's just charming, absolutely charming. And now that I've told you the secret, you may or may not want to listen to it, but no, it's fun. It's just fun and a joy. Then, if you really have a short attention span, Samuel Barber's A Hand of Bridge, which is also in English, which is absolutely delightful. It's the shortest opera probably ever. It's 9 minutes long, the whole thing. And it's a whole thing. It's about one hand of bridge between two couples, all of whom are miserable. And as they're playing cards, each one has an interior monologue in which they reveal their innermost thought. One woman wants to buy a hat with ostrich feathers or peacock feathers or something like that. The other one is afraid his wife is going to figure out he's having an affair. You know, the other one is, they're all just sort of dreary suburban types, playing cards and sunk in their own misery. And it's all over in 9 minutes. And it's jazzy and it's fun. And it's kind of amazing. I mean, if you're just starting out with opera, boy, is that a good place to start. Because if you've got 9 minutes, you've got an opera. And last but not least, this is a 3 for the price of 1. Puccini. Everyone loves Puccini. Puccini's Il Trittico, which means the 3, the trilogy. That's what it is. It's 3 one-act operas, each of which is a bit less than an hour, or an hour or less. So you can take them singly, or you can get all 3 of them in a box. They all come together. Some of them are performed separately, and they've been recorded separately, but most frequently they're done as a trio and performed as a trio, and that's how Puccini intended it, by the way. He didn't intend that you actually get away with just one nice, short, peppy opera, but they're 3 very different operas, and that's what makes them so much fun. The first is Il Tabaro, The Cloak. It's a very verismo opera about, a love triangle, and, somebody gets murdered, and it's very simple, is that the woman who's cheating on her boyfriend gets killed by her husband. Well, we know this, right? And the corpse is under the cloak, and her husband says, "Look under my cloak." Voila! And there's, of course, her dead boyfriend, and she's horrified, and he stuffs her face down on the corpse, saying, "Ha! See that? There you go." So there's that. That's fun. Then there's Sor Angelica, Sister Angelica. It's about a nun who's had an illegitimate child. She has been banished by her noble family to a convent, and her nasty, miserable aunt shows up to tell her that the child has passed away. And she is so grief-stricken that she takes poison and kills herself, which, although a mortal sin, is somehow liturgically forgiven. And as she's dying, she has a vision of angels and the child welcoming her into heaven. Some people find it to be kind of saccharine and tacky, but it's very beautiful. It's really pretty. And it's point, of course, is the contrast to the first one, which is as blood and thunder, gutsy as possible. And the last of them is Johnny Schicchi, a light-hearted comedy about a clever servant who cheats the duplicitous and crocodile tear wielding relatives of a rich guy who has passed away, and he pretends to be the notary or attorney who says that the guy's inheritance, it all goes to his loyal servant Johnny Schicchi. And he does it, of course, partly so that his daughter can marry her boyfriend. His daughter sings O mio babino caro, one of the most famous and shortest arias in the world. It's an aria that lasts exactly like a minute, but you know the tune. O mio babino caro, ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da. You know, it's like, that's half of it. And the other half sort of does the thing the first half does. It's funny, it's charming, it's light and delightful, and it ends this really fascinatingly contrasted trio of short operas. And if you can listen to all three of them, then you're ready to go do a big, regular, normal opera that lasts the usual 2 or 3 or 5 or 6 hours. You won't have any problem at all. So it's a great place to end, to use Puccini's Il Trittico as a launching off point to your further operatic explorations. So there they are, 10 short but fabulous operas for beginners. If you have some suggestions of a short but fabulous opera for a beginner, with a playing time that maxes out between 60 and 70 minutes and hopefully is much less, well, let's hear it. Let's hear it. There's going to be all kinds of, there's a lot of them. Oh, there's tons and tons and tons of them. I mean, I've talked about other ones in the normal course of, discussing operas generally, and you can find them in other lists that we've done for these series, but and in the composer list and all that stuff. They're all over the place. Short operas are not rare, but they don't get all the attention because, of course, they are kind of short. Yeah, that's the way it goes. They're wonderful, wonderful launching off points for beginners interested in exploring the operatic medium for the very first time. So keep on listening, friends. Thank you for joining me, and take care.